following podcast is recorded and produced by Emerge, a media creators co-op, in affiliation with the network at bicbb-radio.com.
Hello and welcome to episode 63 of the Big Yak Podcast. It is I, Mike Pareto, alongside me as always, Nico and Salambeni, and we have a special guest today. We have Joe Goodberry on the show. How are you today, Joe?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Welcome aboard, Joe.
Welcome aboard. If you guys, see anything particularly new, we have moved into the downstairs set of Emerge. Usually we're in the OG studio. We've been there for the last year and some change. But we decided it's time for a little bit of a change of scenery. And so,
Growth is good. We're under the bright lights, and we're now in the bunker.
We're in the bunker.
Each podcast studio has a different name at Emerge, and we're now from the OG to the bunker.
OG to the bunker. It's exciting things. As you said, growth is necessary. Growth is good. And we're going to be expanding, every day, every week, every month, and so we're going to have a lot of big things going. So, Joe, introduce yourself to anybody who doesn't know Joe Goodberry. Who are you? What do you do for a living? We know what you do for a living, but tell the viewers.
Yeah, so I live in Niagara Falls. I'm local to where you guys are shooting here, and I've lived here my whole life, raised here, born in Florida, but that doesn't matter. I am known for covering the Bengals and doing Bengals content. I've been doing it consistently for about 14 years now. Started blogging and writing when that was a cool thing, when that was taking over the internet. And then it went to social media and posting clips and analysis and draft evaluation, scouting reports, analytics and data and fantasy stuff and draft, profiles. And it went from that to podcasting to making video content. And that's what I do now is I post a twice weekly show on YouTube called Bengals On The Brain, where we cover everything Bengals from, like I said, player evaluation, all that I've done. We wrap it up and make it into one show and focus on the Bengals, but we do talk about everything.
Awesome. Yeah. So I got to ask, and as you said, you're local, born in Florida, raised in Niagara Falls. How'd you become a Bengals fan? How'd that kind of come about?
I don't ever have a good answer, to be honest with you, because when you're a kid and you see an orange helmet with stripes on it, you're like, man, that's cool. And I think I think it just stuck because you're kind of stupid when you're 6, right? And you just you just go with it. And I was loyal. I had plenty of opportunities. I could have gone somewhere else. Probably the Bills going on that 17-year drought didn't pull me out of it. You know what I mean? Like if the Bills were good, I probably would have said, all right, I'll stick with the local team. But around 2003, when they drafted Carson Palmer, hired Marvin Lewis, Chad Johnson was fun, T.J. Houshmandzadeh, that offense was, fun to watch. I got the Sunday ticket around that time, and that's when everything took off in terms of all right, this is my team for sure, and I'm not leaving it.
Now we've had other reporters on like Ryan Talbot for the Bills. He said he had to kind of convert from a Bills fan to more of a worker. Would you kind of see yourself more of a fan still, or are you more of just a reporter for the Bengals?
I've walked that line for such a long time now, and it's originally I prided myself on being or trying to say I'm unbiased or that I'm looking at it from a neutral standpoint and everything. And I would be known for being brutally honest about the team or the quarterback or the coaching or whatever's happening. And that was successful because it was coming from somebody who cared about the product. It wasn't just a beat writer or a journalist that, these guys aren't from the area or they got the job because that was the next opening. So ESPN moved that guy to Buffalo, right? And you're like, I'm not sure if he really cares about this team or the outcome of it. So being a unbiased, trying to be at least, fan, because that's kind of a weird thing to cross, but it was successful because I think I've walked that line pretty well of saying, hey, I really care, but this team hasn't won anything in so long, because remember, go back 15 years ago, that it made sense at the time. And then when I got hired by The Athletic to cover the team, it was like I have to drop a lot of that fandom. I have to approach it from a more neutral vantage point. And I did that too, and I can do both, and that's why I think that makes me different than a lot of people. But at the end of the day, I am a Bengals fan. I care about the team. I want to see them do well, and I want them to win, and I'm going to cheer when they do. And I think, again, that gives me a unique perspective amongst the journalists and people that cover it day to day.
Yeah, and we feel the same way too. I mean, we talked about it on the show. People try to come and say like, oh, like local people try to say like, you guys are a Bills podcast, right? No, we are a football podcast. We try to keep that bias aside. If we went on here and we're just biased as all hell, maybe we'd lose some followers. You don't know that. I mean, it's possible, but you just gotta, as you said, you gotta keep that bias aside, and you gotta, tell it how it is. For sure.
I agree, totally.
Yeah. What inspired you to pursue sports media as a career?
I want to say it happened on accident. I didn't know. I didn't plan it. I wasn't expecting to do this. Like, I wasn't involved in any type of media in high school. I didn't go to college. I mean, I went for a semester and was like, yeah, this sucks. I'm out of here. So, like, it wasn't ever a plan. I failed 10th grade English at Niagara Falls High. Like, this is not where I was supposed to go. And I figured it all out in my 20s, early 20s. And I was about, if it was 15 years ago, I'm 36 now. So I was about 21 when I was like, these blogs are popping up, and I was commenting. I was one of the guys. If you're probably listening, you're probably commenting on the video right now. I was that 15 years ago, but people were like, "Hey, what do you mean by this?" Or "What are you talking about when you talk about this player?" And it grew from there, where I would expand a little bit more in the comments section. And then, if you remember the SB Nation blogs, they're still out there. But Cincy Jungle was the Bengals, Buffalo Rumblings is the Bills. They were like, hey, we really love your content, or the comments you're making, the fan posts that you can put on the side of the website. Would you mind doing those once a week for us and recapping the game? And I was like, really? You want that? I said, my writing's going to be terrible. I'm going to need an editor. They're like, yeah, we got that. Don't worry. And I'm like, okay. So that's how it started. And it has snowballed out of demand. I actually tried to walk away from all of it in 2020. So after Joe Burrow was drafted, I was hosting a podcast at the time, Locked On Bengals, for a year and a half, and I was like burned out. It's a 5 days a week podcast. You're doing a lot of content, especially if you care. You guys know. If you care about it, if you're doing the homework, the background, if your mind is constantly churning content in the back of your brain, even when you're trying to be present, for your kids or for your wife or whatever's going on, it takes a toll on you. So when Burrow was drafted, I said, you know what? I want to be a fan. I just want to enjoy this era. I think Burrow's going to be fantastic. This is going to be fun to watch and just enjoy from a fully fan perspective. So I said, all right, I'm leaving, giving it all up, and I quit the podcast, which is doing excellent now. They're still the #1 Bengals podcast. Shout out to those guys. Awesome. But I walked away and said, all right, I'm not going to do analysis anymore. I let go of all my paid jobs and sponsorships and was just like, get me out of it. And the people wouldn't let me quit. So on Twitter, people kept asking, man, it sucks to see you go. But then as soon as something happened, hey, what do you think about this guy? Should they sign him? What do you think they should do in the draft here? Yeah. Well, what are they going to do at the third receiver spot? And I'd try to fight it, but then I'd have some free time, and I still cared. I'm still watching. I'd say, well, I think they should do this. And next thing I know, I collected those other Bengals fans that didn't follow me because I was too objective, I was too unbiased, I was too blunt about the team, and I started to collect people that were, hey, I will follow Joe now because he is doing it from a strictly fan perspective. Ended up being really good, and then about a year later, I got offers to, hey, you want to do this full time? You want to do this again? You want to do this for more money? And it was like, okay, can't deny it anymore.
Right. That's awesome. Yeah. And kind of that being said, do you have any advice for new content creators or those that kind of want to break into this world? Like I said, you kind of just fall into it once you really kind of stay consistent. But
well, because I didn't know it was going to be a thing.
Right.
Like now it's a thing. Like people want to do this. And I just fell into it and got lucky completely, which, I mean, everyone feels lucky when they, when it works out. But yeah, I do have a lot of advice. I get this question a lot, and I say just in general, it doesn't have to be football, sports, or whatever you're into. And, people watching are probably in that avenue, so it makes sense for them. But whatever you do that shit and post it. There's people that are making money just putting trail cams in the back of their property, and an animal walks by and they're putting it on YouTube and it's getting 1 million views. Like, whatever you're into, there's content there, but you have to think of it from that perspective. How is this content? And I always say all the time, we'll be hanging out having pizza and doing something, we're talking, we're just shooting the shit back and forth, and like, I'm like, man, this whole conversation was content. We should have recorded this. Like, this is a show. We are doing it right now, and we don't even realize we're doing it. And if you're watching, you're probably thinking, yeah, I do this with my buddies all the time. We're sitting around drinking.
That's how the Big Yak podcast was formed.
Right. Record it. You will find out what works. You will find a system that works. You will find out how to trim off the fat, how to make it look professional, or at least semi-professional, and it'll start to make sense. And it's going to be a lot of work. And it's not going to hit right away. And you're going to feel frustrated. And you're going to feel like, man, I don't know. I don't know if it's going to work. I don't know if it's ever going to be a full-time job. I don't know if I'm going to make enough money. And then one video is going to hit, or one article is going to hit, or one tweet, one TikTok, one whatever you're making at the time. Because there's going to be something new soon. Whatever it is, jump on it right away and start creating and try to be one of the first guys in that, whatever that space is. And stick with it. Be consistent. Let people know what to expect, when to expect it, and try and hit those markers as best as you can. And if you're talented enough and if you work hard enough, you'll make it.
Yeah, and when me and Nico, first formed the Big Yak, it was just kind of like, me and Nico, we've known each other for our whole lives, basically. And, working at Wegmans at the same time for years, I would see him like down like the hallway of like, the back room of Wegmans, and we'd be like, yo, Nico, like, what do you think about this trade? What do you think about this news? And then it would branch off into like half-hour conversation. And then I was like,
This is the closest we got to getting paid to talk about sports.
Right. And so when Rich Maranto reached out to me for not this, but for photography, he wanted to check out the studio. I saw the studio, the OG studio, and I was like, you know what? Like, actually, I've been wanting to do a podcast, for a while. And so then, I asked Nico, and this is how this all formed. And it just kind of like, here we are. Here we are. So, yeah, it's just, as you said, I completely agree with what you said, consistency. We're still making our way, but we've seen a big jump in views, especially on TikTok. And yeah, it's just a crazy thing, a beautiful thing that's unraveling before us.
And I think you're always going to feel like you're making your way because it changes. The landscape changes. Like I said, starting blogging, like that's not even the big thing anymore. But at the time, it was like, man, you got a blog? It's like, but it's good. Remember Vine? You remember the 6-second videos on Vine?
Oh, yeah.
That took off for 6 months to a year. And I was doing that stuff. And it was great for football clips because plays are about 6 seconds long. But you always got to figure out what's next and what's new and how to make your content fresh. Because if you're good at it, people are going to copy it. And so how do you stand out in that sea of people that are making the same thing? You either do it better, do it more efficiently, or find what's new, what's next.
Yeah, we tried that with Threads, the Instagram version of Twitter, and
that was fun.
It was fun for about like a couple weeks, and then we just didn't notice. I don't know what's up with that app, but it just needs a lot of work.
Yeah,
it just needs a lot of work. I thought like once we joined, it was going to be more of like, oh, boom, we attacked this thing.
I think the coolest thing for Threads now is like you see all these accounts that have joined Threads, and they're like 20 million, 30 million, 17 million, or whatever. Like on your Instagram account, it'll tell you like what number of you were to join.
Oh, I didn't know that.
We were 136,000, so we were one of the
early
OG Threads. So hey, when Threads takes off, hopefully that helps us down the road.
Yeah, we're ready. We're ready to cook on it. But it's just they just need to fix a couple things. It's just a new app. I mean, Twitter was probably the same way. I mean, I don't really remember when Twitter. I don't even know if I was like conscious before that happened, but I mean, yeah, that's probably how that worked for Twitter as well back in the day.
Back in 07.
07.
I was gonna say 09 is when I got on it.
Yeah,
it was when it started to explode. Chad Johnson was on Hard Knocks, and he was like, "Hey, you guys got to get on Twitter." And now I'm blocked by Chad on Twitter, so I got on because of him, and I'm blocked. I was hoping to see him because he was in the Ring of Honor for that Monday night game, getting inducted, and I'm like, "There's a chance I'm going to see him." I almost said something to TJ, which turns out I was hanging out with him at the, during the game, and I almost said, "Hey, can you do me a favor? Chad's like one of my favorite players. Can you get him to unblock me?" But he was like, "I don't even have Twitter on my phone." I was like, "Okay, I'm not going any further."
Dropped it. Yeah. Actually, speaking of that, tell us a little bit about, if you can, just what it was like to see that whiteout game from the suite.
Yeah, that was awesome. That's the second whiteout game I've been to. They started it last year, and the white helmet was something I pushed for. I mean, I've got tweets from 10 years ago saying, and like drawings and pictures of what it would look like, photoshops. Awesome. I'm like, so this is something I pushed for a long time. The Ring of Honor is something that's new for them. I've been to every one of those games now. That's something I pushed for a long time. Not that I need it. It's not credit. It's like I'm happy to see it. You know, it's like something you want. Finally see it out there, and you're like, okay, let's make sure we go to that. So it's awesome. They put on a good show now. It wasn't always like that in Cincinnati. You know, there was dark times and dark years and decades almost. But now it's fun, and now everyone's having a good time.
That's good to hear. That's good. That's how it is in Buffalo too. I mean, we had that big drought. Now it's more of like you could barely get a affordable ticket at that game. So. Yeah, it's just fun times are going on, and even more fun times are ahead. Hopefully, let's go on to the rest of our show. A little bit of NFL headlines. Joe Burrow injury. What to make of it going forward with Tennessee, Arizona, Seattle as opponents before Week 7 bye? Should Bengals consider resting him based on how he's played so far?
So when they thought he was going to be okay. And then that final touchdown in Week 2 versus the Ravens, he was rolling out trying to get away from a guy, and it looks like he re-aggravated his calf injury from late July. And they thought at the time he was like hurt. So like based on my sources, they thought like 6 weeks he might be shelved for, 4 to 6 weeks. Like they're going to put him down and get him back after the bye week if they're even still into it, right? But the risk there was, what are you going to end up? If you're 0-4, if you're 2-4, whatever at that point, is it worth it to even bring the guy back? So what happened is they got a clear imaging throughout the week, Wednesday, Thursday, said, okay, the tear isn't as bad as we thought it was going to be. Joe Burrow is a bit of a maniac, and he was like, I'm practicing. And they're like, dude, they were planning on Jake Browning starting that game. At that point, going into that first practice Thursday, because they played Monday, they believed Browning would be their starter for a Monday night game. And then Burrow showed up Friday. And then Burrow showed up again Saturday, doing more and more each time and saying, I'm playing. I'm like, give me the chance to show you on Monday. We got an extra day of rest. Look at me on Monday and let me know if I can play or not. And they looked at him and they said, okay, if you feel like you can play, you're going to play. So I believe they're going to keep going with him. And even if he's at 65%, that's better than Jake Browning and what they expect. He has not been good. He has not looked good at any point in even college. I don't even know how he's still on an NFL team. He's found a way to survive, and that's half the battle in the NFL. So I believe they're going to stick with Burrow, try and win these games that they have. I mean, you got the Titans, you got the Cardinals, Seahawks. You can win these, even with a 60% Burrow, and the projection is that he'll be about 5% better, and the re-injury risk will drop by 5% each week. He doesn't have a setback. So if you can get through the next 3 weeks, he should be pretty close to normal, and then you get your bye week, but then it gets really tough after that. You got to be ready for the 49ers. You got to be ready for the Bills. They got the Jags. They got the Chiefs. You got the division games, which have been tough on them. I would just say, fantasy-wise, make sure you've got a backup. Like, if he's only going to give you 220 yards and maybe 1 touchdown, you can find that anywhere. You're stashing Burrow at this point. Look back, and hopefully he's healthy by the time late season playoffs or fantasy comes around, and you can start him again.
That being said, speaking of backups, do you think that the Bengals should consider looking into the backup quarterback market at all?
I don't know what's out there in terms of like maybe Carson Wentz, but it seems like nobody wants him.
No.
I think there's a stink.
Yeah,
there's a stink on Wentz, right? Where nobody wants that. I don't want to say a cancer because that's like the worst, label you can put on a player, but it does seem like nobody wants to bring him in. I mean, the Jets right now are struggling. Everyone knows Zach Wilson's terrible, and they don't even want Carson Wentz. So the Bengals signed A.J. McCarron, who hasn't thrown a pass in 3 years or 4 years in the NFL, just because they know him.
Right?
Yeah, he was a Buffalo, right? And so we'll see. I think that as of now, they're going to go with what they have, and if anything worse happens, then they probably dip into it, or maybe they think McCarron can eventually elevate from the practice squad.
I mean, hey, they're 1-2 right now. They're 0-2 in the division. Do you think that these NFC teams, these games against the NFC teams, Arizona, Seattle, or even like a non-divisional game like Tennessee, are these kind of becoming must-win for the Bengals?
I think it's probably must-win anyways because, and yeah, the NFC games are probably worth less in the conference standings, but these are your chances to get back into it. The AFC is going to be a gauntlet. We knew this coming in, and then Aaron Rodgers goes down, so maybe one less team, and maybe the Broncos aren't as bouncing back. So maybe one less team. But still, you're going to have a good quarterback or good team that's not going to make the playoffs. If the Browns continue to be good, if the Steelers, they're 2-1, if they can get it on the right track on offense, the defense is good. If the Ravens in that division, they look like the best team, if they continue that and can avoid injuries that they haven't been able to avoid for, 3 years now, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for all of these teams to, I don't think we've seen all 4 teams make the playoffs before in a division. Someone's not going to make it. Maybe even 2 are not going to make it. So you've got to stack these wins while you can, while you have easier opponents, because the gauntlet definitely is on the second half of that schedule.
PFF had a 0.0 grade on Bengals O lineman Cordell Volson Monday night. Is this the Aaron Donald effect, or is this offensive line still a ways from being complete?
So the Bengals have invested a lot in their offensive line over the last couple of years. Remember, they got to the Super Bowl. Burrow that year in the playoffs got sacked 9 times by the Titans. That's who they play this week. So we'll see how much, maybe we'll have a direct comparison how much better this offensive line is. But there's only one starter remaining from that 2021 team on the O-line. That's Jonah Williams, who was the left tackle then. He's playing right tackle now. In the next offseason, they signed right guard Alex Kappa, who's a solid guard starter. Ted Karras, same solid starting center. They signed this year in free agency Orlando Brown to play left tackle. He's a 4-time Pro Bowler. That's probably a little bit better of a description than he actually is. He's a good starter, but he's not great. Left guard, though, is of last year's 4th-round rookie, Cordell Volson. They expected him to take a big jump this year. He gets that 0.0 grade, and everyone's like, maybe that second-year leap is a bit of a myth. But it's Aaron Donald as well. I mean, he will kick your ass if you let him. And they didn't want to let him, but he still found a way to do it. But the thing is, like, I don't want to brush it off and say, oh, that's Aaron Donald. Because Aaron Donald beat you in the Super Bowl, so you can't have that. Right. And then Chris Jones beat him last year in the AFC Championship game. So you can't say, oh, these great guys, you can't block them. You got to find a way to at least not let them wreck your game. Yep. And they've got Jeffrey Simmons this week, who I think is playing out of his mind so far for the Titans. Yeah. So it's going to be tough. We'll see if Volson can bounce back.
Yeah, and it's one of those things like Aaron Donald, I mean, regardless of how old he gets, until he retires, he's going to continue to be a top-tier pass rusher. Like, people like him, Von Miller, they're all cut from the same cloth.
Oh, yeah.
Like, regardless of how old they are, like, what happens to them, their pass rushing, intellect is built in. They're always going to be, in shape. These guys are seasoned vets. They know how to get their bodies right. They know what they're doing. But I mean, I wouldn't look into that bad of like a 0.0 grade. Yeah, Aaron Donald, but you should be playing more. As you said, Jeffrey Simmons is coming up next week. It's going to be an even tougher. As tough matchup as you had last week,
and watching the film, I don't. The thing is, you can debate PFF grades a little bit when you see something like that, because a 0.0 means, I understand their grading. It means that, like, on average, he was way worse than the average player. Fine, and it takes into account that Donald was the opponent, but 0.0 should be reserved for, like, this guy.
This guy wasn't even there.
Right. You can put a cone up and get a 0.0, right? Or a 0.1. Like, 0.0 should be the worst performance I've ever seen.
Like, was he just, like, rolling over every play?
He was not. He just got beat 5 times out of 48 passes. And I'm like, okay, I'm not even mad about it. Like, he got beat. That 0.0 seems extreme to me.
It almost feels like it's kind of like a shock value thing where, like, PFF kind of knew, like, hey, this guy probably is like a 13, but you know what sounds better? 0.
Yeah, and I think they just punch it into a computer and it gives them it weights the average and then says, oh, that's a 0. And I'm like, fine, based on historical of their grading, but, like, someone's got to look at it and say, give him a 10. Look at it. He won 5 reps. He just lost 5 in epic fashion.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. So let's move on to the Chicago Bears.
Yikes.
So
big yikes.
It has been.
That's a 0.0.
Yeah, if PFF starts grading franchises, I got a big fat O for you, Chicago. I took the time earlier today and tried to, like, map out what the hell happened in the last week and a half. So, starting, I'll just go real quick and recapping week 1 and week 2 because all the fun starts last week. Week 1, they were dismantled by Green Bay. I mean, I think they lost by 10, but that game was, you look back at it and that game was never close.
No.
That tallies their 11th loss going back from last year in a row. That week we had Chase Claypool and that whole thing where it looked like he had no effort and all that jazz. Week 2, the Bears lose to Tampa Bay. Justin Fields threw that pick 6 to I think it was, who was it? Shaq Barrett, I think. Right on his 5-yard line. That made headlines. But now this is where the fun begins. So on September 20th, this is when Justin Fields, this was after their loss to Tampa Bay. So Justin Fields points at his coaching staff as to why he looks robotic on the field. He goes, he blames it on the coaching, whatever. And then that same day, now former Bears defensive coordinator Alan Williams steps down. His reasoning was to focus on family and other personal reasons. And then later that day, rumors are already surfacing that there was a raid at the Bears facility. There was a raid at Alan Williams' house. These turned out to be not quite true, but all of that was swirling around on 9/20. 9/21, Ryan Poles holds an emergency press conference saying that they're not panicking yet. And then also that same...
emergency broadcast. We are not panicking. This is not time to panic.
That's a good point.
Emergency. Not panicking.
And then that same day is when that news surface reported where they lost $100,000 in property. They just someone came and they got robbed for $100,000 worth of lawnmowers and this and that all at their facility, all on that same day. So 9/20 and 9/21 was just tumultuous. And then you think that it kind of all settles after that, and then they go into Kansas City on Sunday, get shattered 41-10. Taylor Swift is watching on, and then that same day, Adam Schefter brings out a report saying that the reason that Alan Williams stepped down was due to inappropriate activity within the organization. So Schefter said that this
could be anything.
That's what exactly. So he didn't say it was criminal activity, but it was inappropriate activity bad enough for the Bears HR department to get involved and urge him to step down. And so now where we're at today, the Bears are now sitting at 13 straight losses in a row, going up against the team that just gave up 70 points in an NFL game, and I don't know who needs this win more, the Broncos or the Bears.
I mean, I'm gonna go Bears, but Denver is also. They've shown some light. They've shown some bright spots, just not a lot. So, give me the Bears who need a.
If I'm Ryan Poles, this game is pretty much like your last stand for Justin Fields, right? I would think. I mean, at this point, when do you pull the plug and when do you start blowing it up?
Do you put it on Fields? I mean, the offense they're running is a disaster right now. And the O-line can't block. The receivers can't run. It's a lot of it's coaching. They're running into each other and running into the same route into each other. You got to think that's coaching unless it's just a complete defunct attention to detail going on.
I think it's I just think it's a little bit of everything. I mean, I think you try to keep it going with Field, but you see who else is on that team. I mean, do you go to the rookie Tyler Bagent? I think that's his last name, or do you go
Tyson Bagent?
Tyson Bagent. Yeah. I butchered that name. Or do you go Nathan Peterman? Buffalo Bills legend. I mean, it's just it's tough. I don't know.
And it's at this point, what is the return for Justin Fields? He has not put up any real good game tape in the last 3 weeks. And like you said, it could be coaching, it could be that, but we haven't seen anything this year. And this was a team in the offseason that was kind of projecting 10 wins for themselves, a playoff team. Justin Fields is going to make that third-year step. They just traded for DJ Moore. They were kind of modeling after that Eagles strategy where you give that veteran receiver to your young quarterback and watch that offense kind of bloom, and that's just not happening.
And now I think I saw they had a 36% chance to own the first and second pick because I believe they have Panthers, right?
Yes.
Yep.
So, from 10 wins to, no, you may have the first and second pick. You cannot not take a quarterback if that's the situation.
Yeah. I would continue to, keep him going until week 8, trade deadline, see what you can get for him. I mean, another team that I'm looking at is the Jets.
I'm thinking the Jets.
Yeah, the Jets. I mean, with the Jets, it's a lot of everything else is going right. It's just Zach Wilson is poo-poo. He is not.
Everything's going right except for Zach Wilson.
Everything's going their defense is great. The running backs. I mean, they gotta step it up a little bit with the running backs.
O-line sucks.
The O-line sucks. But I mean, you have a guy like Garrett Wilson who is almost on that. He's like a flex play now in fantasy football.
Yeah.
I mean, it's tough.
You turn Garrett Wilson to a flex play. Congratulations, Jets.
It's tough. So I would continue to give Justin Fields some games, see what you listen to some offers, shop them around. But it's tough. There's got to be a point where you're like, all right, this season's in the crapper.
Tank for Caleb.
Tank for Caleb.
I have a question though. The jersey's in the back. Now that I'm thinking about it. I mean, at my age, these are the guys. But like, are the young guys like? Who are these guys in the background?
So, I mean, I got these from my house.
Okay.
I have an older brother. He's 28, so these were his jerseys. He's also a Bills fan, but he went through a little stage of where he didn't have an identity of who he wanted to be as his favorite team. So, got like Adrian Peterson jersey like randomly.
He's gonna choose what week
we're
I
just
wanna
gonna
be
go
my
like
favorite
Antonio
team.
Gates, like.
He's great. He was
great.
tremendous. I mean, Jimmy Graham's scoring touchdowns, so I'm like, maybe we can get Antonio Gates back in this.
Yeah, and so that's kind of how it was. We're just trying to like mix it up a little bit. You know, we got two greats.
You know, your brother's not that weird for doing that. My brother and I had this conversation recently when we've got a lot of friends that like are not Bills fans in this area, and they're like, that's weird. I thought Buffalo loves the Bills. They do, but they're also that 17 years created a generation where it's like we wore everything else because you couldn't wear Bills stuff all the time.
I'll tell you, when we first started this podcast, it was great because when you're first starting out, it's tough to kind of have that pull to bring people in and try to get some guests and get some alternate opinions on. We had a ton of friends that are fans of different teams, all from high school. So we had Vikings fans on, we had Browns fans on, we've had Eagles fans on, Dolphins
Cowboys,
fans
I'm sure.
on,
Cowboys.
Yeah. So yeah. That whole era of Bills draft or Bills drought created this rift in a generation.
Yeah.
And so this is what kind of leads to like the Peterson and Gates jerseys.
It would look like an all-star game on Fridays. Everyone wearing their jerseys of their different teams.
Right.
I saw Niagara Falls High School back in the day.
Exactly.
It'd be like you'd see a jersey from every team.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
That's let us have. We have a Tom Brady Bucks Funko.
Got
We have
Joe Burrow back there. I see the
Funko.
shirt today,
yeah,
too.
I had to
Okay,
wear
yeah.
this
Joe
today.
Shiesty.
Nice.
So yeah, it's a little bit of a hodgepodge, and we're an NFL show.
We're an NFL show, not a Bills show.
Nothing represents it more than Adrian Peterson and Antonio Gates.
Right.
So if you're doing your 2020 or 2008 fantasy draft,
Yeah.
these-
Yeah. Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. Can't believe we're even covering this.
we
but
have to at this point.
We have to.
It's
You have
news.
to.
This had more news than the Miami Broncos game.
It did.
That's
Nice.
unreal. That had more
did.
coverage. ESPN front pages Taylor Swift, not to the fact that the Dolphins scored 70 points.
Well, did you see the New Heights podcast and show, the Kelsey brothers? Like their numbers have tripled.
Yep.
Kelsey's 400%. The jersey sales have gone up.
Jersey spike in 400%. That
I will say this, you can have whatever opinion you want on Taylor Swift and her music, but I think, just being around her and herself, like herself is a marketing genius.
Oh,
Like
no doubt.
with what she's done with re-releasing her albums, like the concerts, like now you're dating one of the top NFL players in the NFL. I mean, it's just she's kind of a genius. I'm not gonna
Well,
lie.
you think
I
this
don't-
is a stunt?
It's not a stunt.
You
It's
know,
not a stunt.
It's possible. It's
It
possible.
could
that
be
it's a PR
possible.
stunt.
It could be possible, but
to branch into her untapped territory of NFL fans. Maybe this is her ploy at the halftime show. I don't know.
Who gets more out of this, Kelsey or Taylor Swift?
Travis Kelce.
Travis Kelce.
I mean,
No
you
doubt.
can look at the numbers, right? I mean,
Okay,
like
the
we said,
NFL
yeah.
or because they're getting a lot of run out of this.
That's a good point.
That's a
the
good
NFL,
point.
there might be some backdoor money. I don't know. Between
Sign
the
her,
NFL and Taylor Swift,
Has she done a Super Bowl halftime?
no,
no, she hasn't.
We're getting close.
And we're-
That's coming.
she didn't get it. Usher.
Usher got
Usher
it.
got
for
it
this
I'm
this
year.
cool with
year.
that.
Yeah,
As a
I'll
36-year-old, Usher was the man.
Can't wait for him to hear. I can't wait to hear "Burn" Confessions Part 2.
Part 1 and 2.
Part 1 and 2. But yeah, marketing genius. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see where it goes. And then lastly, injuries. Mike Williams out for season with the ACL. That's a big blow to the Chargers offense, fantasy managers, worldwide. Saquon Barkley, coming back hopefully this week. They tried rushing him back last week. Just I don't know. You might have to wait a little bit more. Christian Watson, Aaron Jones, all have a chance to play Sunday. Jalen Waddle as well. He didn't play last week as well.
He practiced in full today. I did see.
They
He
didn't need
practiced
him.
their Friday practice as well,
Yeah.
so I assumed he was getting close.
Yeah, they didn't even need him.
And they scored 70 without Jalen Waddle.
That's scary.
I need an emergency press conference for that one.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, that's our NFL headlines and current events around the NFL. We're gonna put you through the 2-minute drill, Joe.
Okay.
Are you ready for this?
I mean, I don't know. So the
yeah,
way
we're
the way he said it, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. The way you've been saying it, it's making me like, I don't even know what I'm expecting now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I want he's gonna give you it's not that bad, but I'm gonna be.
It's like a
kinda
good cop, bad cop.
Yeah, he was like, yeah, we're gonna do this thing in like 2 minutes, ask you questions. I'm like, cool, great. And then you're like, are you ready?
You ready? I'm kind of like the devil on the shoulder, and Nico's kind of like the angel.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that being said, you'll have a couple headlines. We'll ask you a couple questions,
All right.
and then you kind of have to give your.
And I go as long or short as I want on this. Just
long
give
as
my
it's short.
take and keep
we
it
had
moving.
we had Kesey on 2 weeks ago. Marquise Alexander out. He was doing yes and no, like yes and no answers, and got through. He's number one
That's
on our
always number
board
one.
right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then last week we had on Casey, which then kind of opened up some of it, so that kind of tanked his number a little bit. So you could approach this any way you want it.
I have a hard time not explaining, so this might be
Let's
different.
go. Ready? Are we ready for this?
Challenge. Let me pull up the timer real quick. Get that stopwatch going, and so the time is going to start after Mike says the first question.
Okay.
So you don't get penalized for Mike reading off.
Does an alarm go off at 2 minutes?
Yes.
It's just me alarming you.
Gotcha.
Yes. Ready? Are you ready, Joe?
I'm ready.
Okay. We asked last week to Casey, should we be worried about Joe Burrow as NFL fans and as fantasy football managers?
Yes, because he's not as productive when he's injured and can't get his full reps that he normally. He's the guy who needs his reps. So yes.
Does Miami replicate anything close to their 70-point game this season?
No. Let's say this. Do they have a 50-point game the rest of the year? I'll say no.
Okay. All right. How long does Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift last?
Through the playoffs. As soon as they lose in the playoffs, she dumps them.
Oh, okay.
New album coming right after that. When does Cup return? Do you think it's going to be week 5 or later? That's Cooper Cup.
I'll go with later. It sounds like this is a lingering thing that they don't fully understand, or else he probably would have missed more of camp and more of the summer. So I'll say later.
All right. Should Devontae Adams request a trade or stay in Las Vegas?
He can request a trade. I'm not sure if that contract is absorbable by a lot of teams. He would have very limited options.
And will the Jets lose the locker room by starting Zach Wilson going forward?
Not soon. Probably not right now, but it's probably on the teetering point. They're within a couple of weeks, yes.
A minute 10.
A minute 10.
I have a bonus question that's not on here.
Okay.
All right.
Best wings in Buffalo.
Let's go.
I guess if you're coming to Buffalo, I would recommend going to Bar Bill.
Bingo.
But
answer.
you could go right down here and go to Judy's and have a great time.
Shout out
We
Judy's.
had someone else say that too.
Judy's is good.
Judy's, I will say, is the best wings in north of the Grand Island Bridge.
Fair. Yeah.
North of Buffalo, Judy's is the place to be.
Yeah.
What do we have for time for Joe?
1:10.
1:10.
Minute 10.
You can slot me right down to number 10 down there. Everyone's going to go a little faster.
But yeah, no. So best wings of Buffalo. We try to ask every guest that's at least local around here to give their take on it, and that always tends to be a topic of debate. We've had Bar Bill, we've had Elmo's, we've had Gabriel's Gate as well. One other person said Judy's, and I agree with you. With Niagara Falls specifically, Judy's is the place to go. Bar Bill has my heart.
I answer this a ton for the people that follow me that are outside of Buffalo, and especially at the playoff game. A lot of them were coming into town. And a lot of them wanted to try Anchor Bar and Duff's, and I'm not against it. I mean, if you just go do it, sure. That's especially Anchor Bar, it's the original. Go ahead and have a good time. But I did say, feel free to go to those places, but these are the other, basically the ones you've named. If you're in town, hit those up. You can't. That's the other part that I don't think people know. You can go anywhere in Western New York. You can't go about 2 blocks without getting a pizza or a sub or
That's the
a wing
thing.
place.
Everything's gonna be solid, especially if you've only had chains.
Yes,
right.
You could go to a mom and pop shop and it's gonna be 10 times better than any other wing you've tried.
100%.
Yeah. Joe Goodberry. 1 minute, 10 seconds. So he is third place right now behind Kesey and Casey. Yeah, you did good. Well, you did good. I mean, for 1 minute and 10 seconds. Was
Hey,
good.
I don't know how those guys answer their questions. I hope mine were fast and detailed.
They were.
I think yours has been the most informative so far.
Oh, thanks.
That's the good cop speaking again.
Yeah, you could have been like Kesey. You could have said just yes and no, or
No. Yes.
could have gave the viewers a little bit of mind candy to think about. So, yeah. So that was our 2-minute drill. We're going to go on to our underdog pick 5.
Before we do that, there's something we do need to talk about because we actually kind of alluded to it with the Taylor Swift thing, and that got more coverage than this.
Yeah.
The Broncos.
The Broncos?
Sean Payton and the Broncos. 70 points. 70 points.
Pon Satan?
Yeah, Pon Satan. Yeah, coach who cannot be named. I have some words for you.
Here we go.
So he spoke about it in July, and he kind of foreshadowed it for himself. Might have been one of the worst coaching jobs in the history of the NFL. That's how bad it was. Those aren't my words. Those are your words back in July, Mr. Payton. 2 numbers. 376, 350. That's 376 passing yards and 350 rushing yards in the same game. Single game. Over your head. Do you know how hard it is to put up 70 points in Madden?
Oh, yeah.
You let your defense eat 70 points in real life. That's I don't even.
It's like playing my girlfriend in Madden, just like kind of giving her the
Even then,
game controller.
even
Like, here
then,
you go.
That's still difficult. So I pulled up this stat real quick. Denver's time of possession Miami's time of possession was 33 minutes. 33 minutes. That means that this team was averaging a touchdown per 3 minutes of regulation.
Yikes.
Within when they had the ball. At that point, it's beyond the players. It's beyond the scheme. It's all about coaching. So, Sean Payton, you need to be ashamed of yourself.
2 points per minute. 2+ points per minute.
That's unreal. 2 points a minute. That's
basketball numbers.
That's right. I've seen college basketball games with that kind of score.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I will say this. Shout out Mike McDaniel. Wanted to take the sportsmanship route and go for the kneel instead of the field goal. So no record. What do you guys think? Do you think he should have went for the field goal and
what
just
did
said
he say
screw
in
it?
his press conference, he said something like, you know what, I can handle 70 or something.
Yeah, I can sell for 70.
I don't know, man.
When you're that close to...
Who was it the week 2 where they kicked the field goal when they were down by like 17?
Oh, that was this week. That was the Bills.
No, there was a team that was losing at the end. Was it the Rams?
Raiders. It was the Raiders Steelers, I thought, right?
Was it Raiders Steelers?
I thought they kicked a field goal. They were down.
Yeah, they're down 8. But
down
no,
8.
this one I'm trying to think. I think it was Rams Seahawks, and they were being shut out, and they just went down and kicked the field goal, even though they
that
needed.
happened on Sunday with the Bills and the Commanders.
Oh, the Commanders kicked
Yes.
it. That's how they got 3.
Yeah.
I'm talking about
This past Sunday, it was about to be a shutout, and then they kicked the field goal. At that point, there's a minute left.
Just so you can say we didn't get shut out at home.
That's so annoying.
Underdog pick 5. Nico, do you want to get paid?
Oh, let's get paid.
Let's get paid indeed.
So we are proud to be partnering with Underdog Sports, our favorite place to play fantasy games. You just got to check out their new Pick'em game. It's so easy to play. Just pick 2 to 5 stats of your favorite players and choose whether they'll go higher or lower. You can 20 times your money by going 5 for 5. Does that sound like fun? Download their app and sign up today using our code BIGYAC. That's BIGYAC to get your first deposit up to $100 matched. Can't wait to see your entries. That being said, you got a pick 5 for us?
First things first. My first one is going to be kind of a wild card, and
Okay.
I took this out of inspiration from AJ Brown.
Okay.
A little bit, somewhat. Drake London at Jacksonville. Give me the higher.
Okay.
I think Drake London has a bounce back game. I guess you could say he had a little bit of a bounce back game last week, but I think, he tops 100 points against Jacksonville. I did not like what I saw from Jacksonville's defense versus Houston. Granted, CJ Stroud has looked great so far through the first couple weeks of his NFL career. But that being said, CJ Stroud was throwing all over that Jacksonville defense. Needless to say,
He was chopping him up.
Yeah, needless to say, Drake London over 45.5. I think that's doable. Even if it's 50, that still wins the underdog pick 5. Next I have is also from that game, Atlanta at Jacksonville, Bijan Robinson. Give me higher than 25.5 receiving yards.
Okay. Yeah, they've been using him a lot in the receiving.
They like using both backs, and Bijan, I believe, offers more receiving,
Upside.
prowess
than
Tyler Algier. So I think Desmond Ridder is, a lot of the first couple of games, a lot of people are saying that they're very run heavy. They're very run heavy. I think the script flips and they're going to go pass heavy this week.
All right.
Just
I think that's a
Up and
fine
down.
bet anyways because he's an explosive player. Any explosive player, 25 yards is nothing.
All
You
it
can hit
takes
that
is
on one play.
Yeah.
Next I have Deshaun Watson, 234.5 passing yards. I'm going to go lower against Baltimore. I like Baltimore's defense. Deshaun Watson had a solid game last week versus Tennessee. I just don't know where to put Tennessee. Tennessee is like in a weird spot for me because they looked good against the LA Chargers, but then
I feel like they play to their opponent.
yeah, they get almost blown out by Cleveland.
Yeah.
Who looked like dog crap a
Yeah.
couple weeks ago, like 2 weeks ago. So I don't know. I mean, 234. I'm gonna go to the under. I think we're going to see more of the Jerome Ford game, and I think we're going to see Kareem Hunt get sprinkled in a little bit more in this offense as he gets acclimated back into Cleveland. I have another one from that game. David Njoku, under 30.5 receiving yards. I hate David Njoku. I don't
Took
mean
the
to sound
lower
like
just based off of.
Just vibes.
no. This is based off my fantasy team. This is based off my fantasy team.
Oh, he's hurt you in the past.
Yeah,
he's
this year.
He's bitten by Njoku too many times.
But keep drafting him, though.
Yeah, I for some reason I drafted him 8th round in the most like the biggest pot of my fantasy leagues, $100. Had him. He's my tight end. Got him in the 5th pick of the 8th round. He has just not been good. Like I think he's like tight end number
He's
like
bust. He'll give you those weeks where he's tight end 1 or tight end 2 though, and then you're like, oh, he's the best thing ever, and then 5 weeks in a row of tight end 20.
yeah. I'm not gonna. All right, I'll take back. I don't hate him.
You
but
got like Kylan Granson outscoring him, and
Yeah.
then you're like, I could have just grabbed a guy off waivers.
Donald Parham.
He's only good for best ball.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
So I don't hate him. Hate's a strong word. I just strongly dislike him right now. Raheem Mostert, 52.5 rushing yards. Give me the higher.
I mildly dislike him.
Mildly dislike him.
I can't tolerate him.
Raheem
He's
Mostert,
getting on my nerves.
Raheem Mostert, 52.5 rushing yards. I think he is still the number one back when it comes to him and Devin a Kane.
So
Oh.
no,
Chane?
A-Chan.
A-Chan,
That's how he
A-Chan.
wants it pronounced.
It's
A-Chan.
Devon A-Chan.
Devon A-Chan.
A-Chan.
Devon
Not
A-Chan.
He just
Devon.
spent 4 years in college. Didn't correct anyone then. Now we've got to
second
adjust.
Devon A-Chan.
Well, I scored 4 touchdowns, by the way. I would like to be called by this name. I mean, at what point in your life can you do that?
I guess after dropping 70 on an NFL team, that's a good time to say it.
Give me Raheem Mostert, 52.5. I like Buffalo's run defense the last 2 weeks, but
They're susceptible for that chunk play.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. Raheem Mostert gets off that 50, 60-yard run, and boom, there's your hire right then and there.
yeah. And then lastly, I have James Cook. James Cook, higher than 18.5 receiving yards.
They've been using him a lot in the passing game too. Week 1, he was second on the team in targets behind Stephon Diggs, and that's a huge number. I think he had something like 7 targets that game or something like that. And yeah, I like that a lot. I think we're going to see a lot of Ken Dorsey. If you got a bag to be in, this is the game to do it. If there's one
bag.
game to be in your bag, it's going to be against this Miami Dolphins team.
You have yours ready?
I have mine. So there is a special going on with Underdog right now with Jared Goff. He only needs 1 yard.
I should have.
So-
I don't know why I didn't put that in
Is
mine.
this like the Aaron Rodgers special where he only needed 1 yard?
Yes, exactly.
Except
Hilarious for underdog. Man.
Hopefully we don't see this as a curse moving forward. Jared Goff, I hope to see you out there. So give me higher 0.5 total yards. I love how it even gives you the option to go the lower, like just in case. Like,
Aaron Rodgers effect,
you never
man.
know. Going on, I liked what you were saying about Trevor Lawrence and Jacksonville against Atlanta. I have Trevor Lawrence going higher, 1.5 passing touchdowns.
Okay.
I think that they get this done through the air. I really like Atlanta's secondary this year. I mean, A.J. Terrell, Jeff Okudah is a really great tandem. But I think that this Jacksonville offense drives via the pass. They're a pass-first team. They use the pass to set up the run. I like Trevor Lawrence higher than 1.5 passing touchdowns here. And then in that same cloth, Bijan Robinson, you took the receiving yards. I'm taking the rushing yards there. I still think this is a rush first offense. They're almost like the exact opposite offensively than Jacksonville. So I like higher 65.5 rushing yards here. And then moving on to the next one, Romeo Doubs, give me higher than 39.5 receiving yards. This one I like a lot because Christian Watson, if he plays on Sunday, he's not going to be, or on tomorrow night actually, he's not going to be 100%. I think they kind of ease him in, maybe put him on a snap count. And hey, Romeo Doubs has been acting as that de facto wide receiver one, and this is easy. And like you said, like all it takes is one big play, one deep throw, and boom, he has his receiving yards. So I think that's the safest pick here for a pick 5. And then lastly, Sam Laporta, higher than 42.5 receiving yards. He had that amazing touchdown.
He's been balling.
And yeah, I am all aboard the Sam Laporta train. He actually, to me, has been outperforming Jahmyr Gibbs. Now, I know Jahmyr Gibbs hasn't gotten a lot of playing time and not a lot of touches, but I think that Detroit really struck gold with their second-round pick in Sam Laporta. So that's my pick 5.
All right. So yeah, those are underdog pick 5s. Use code Big Yak, and let's make some money together. Moving on. We're going to move on to the Take It to the Bank segment. We're going to do our parlays of the week, week 4 edition, and we're going to predict a couple games, especially the Bengals, the Bills, because we got, both fan bases kind of right here, and other, notable games that we have for this slate. Nico, do you have a parlay of the week?
I do have the parlay of the week, and I'm sticking to my tradition of Thursday night football parlays.
Okay.
So it's another 4-legger. This one's at a plus 551 odds, and so give me Detroit money line. They're currently favored by 1.5 points, and I think they're just more of a complete team over the Packers. Going on to Jared Goff over 1.5 passing touchdowns. This is another one where I think that this team is going to thrive off the pass, at least until they get David Montgomery fully healthy. Jair Alexander is still nursing a back injury. So I don't know if he's at 100%. I don't think he'll have an injury designation for this game, but he did miss last week. So I think I see a passing touchdown to Jahmyr Gibbs and Amon-Ra St. Brown in the near future. So if you want to play those as props, by all means, go for it. And then similar to what we had in the underdog pick 5, I really like the Romeo Doubs over 39.5 receiving yards. And then finishing it off at Amon-Ra St. Brown, 50-plus receiving yards. His line is really at 72.5, but I took it at the 50 to round out the parlay and make it kind of an easy slot in. So $10 will get you $55 plus your $10 back. So $10 turns into $65 with that little parlay of the week there.
All right. I got a couple picks right here. I tried to go on the upset of the week train, but last week I picked Tennessee to win, and they got spanked. So
we were gonna make a whole segment if the Titans.
I was ready. I was so ready.
Crystal ball.
Yeah,
he had the first 2 upsets.
Oh, you were confident.
I was confident,
Man,
and
you had a dream and everything.
Yeah, they were plus 3.5 against Cleveland. Cleveland was coming off that game against Pittsburgh. I was like, you know what? Boom. And Tennessee was coming off that win versus LA. So I was like, yeah, I feel confident.
This is a shoe-in, right?
27-3. I texted Nico. I'm like, what?
He goes, them Titans, man.
Titans, man. So
we're taking the opposite of whatever you have written down.
Might have to. So for my upset, give me the LA Rams money line. They are playing Indianapolis on the road. They're only 1.5 point underdogs, so take it as you will. If you consider them an upset. As you said, only 1.5 point.
I'm going to dial back the upset a little bit.
Dial it. Yeah, let's just go.
He's taking a coin flip and saying, we'll take the underdog special.
Yeah. Let's just go Rams money line right now. Give me Devontae Smith 50-plus yards receiving. I think he bounces back this week. A.J. Brown. I think going forward, they're going to have more of like a balanced.
It's funny.
threat.
It's like 1 week they boom, 1 week they don't. And I see that sometimes, and you can probably speak to it with T. Higgins and Chase.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Where one of the one receiver pops off and then the other doesn't get the ball as much. Then the next game they get the ball the entire next game.
So take T. Higgins, whatever it is, over under. Take the over this week.
I was actually looking at those props and I couldn't find. They're not up yet. So I'll be taking over.
So then Chargers Raiders. I have Keenan Allen yards, but we do not have the yards aren't available at the moment. So hopefully by Friday.
But
That's
you
the
want
only,
it regardless, huh?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
That's the
I like it.
I
only
want it
sucky
regardless.
thing about recording on Wednesdays is we don't have all the lines available.
Not all the lines are available. Yeah.
So yeah, when I build my parlay, I'm like, yep, Thursday nights, like this is
Boom.
perfect.
but
But
some of the Sunday games are kind of like, you gotta wait.
I agree with you. Chargers over everything. I'm also going to take Devontae Adams. Whatever the receiving yard opens up at, I'm slamming that.
Oh, they got to shut him up, so let's
Yep.
give him 12 targets.
Right. Yeah, he had 20 last game. So
keep up that pace. We're almost at Puka Nakua levels of.
Devontae Adams, if you really work hard and
You
keep
can
your nose
one
clean,
day-
you can one day be like Puka Nakua.
So yeah, Chargers. Mike Williams is also gone for the year. So I mean, their next remaining receivers are Quentin Johnston and Josh Palmer.
That being said, I think it'll be an interesting game to see how Quentin Johnston
Yeah,
does. I mean, this is
exactly.
a really soft Raiders defense.
Mm-hmm.
I think that if they want to get him going and get him confident early, they might look his way quite a bit this week.
Yeah. So Keenan Allen's been balling. He had a touchdown pass last week, for God's sake.
One of Mike's locks last week was
Keenan Allen touchdown.
Keenan Allen anytime touchdown,
Wow,
and of
and it
course
came
he
in a throw.
passed.
It came in on a throw. You can't, it doesn't count. I'm like, of course.
Oh, that
like,
doesn't count?
no, it doesn't
Passing
count.
touchdown.
Count double.
Yeah, exactly. Passing touchdowns don't count, regardless for any time. But it's like, oh yeah, Keenan Allen touchdown pass, probably be like plus like 5,000. But
That's
like,
right. Yeah.
yeah, so that kind of hurt a little bit. But I got one more pick. If you're on DraftKings, I know you could do like you can do lowers, or even on Underdog you could do lowers. Dalvin Cook rushing yards. Give me the lower. Against
Whatever it is,
they're going up against Kansas City. Kansas City's defense has been really good so far,
especially with Chris Jones back.
with
That's
Chris
been
Jones
huge.
back.
And the game should be out of hand.
Yes,
So,
yeah. So don't expect
Abandon the
anything
run
from them.
after 7 minutes.
Yeah,
Zach Wilson over 50 passes thrown.
yeah.
Zach
Yikes.
Wilson's passing touchdown line was 0.5 last week, and I don't think he hit it.
No.
I think he.
don't think he did
it was- I think he got the under.
Yeah.
So did we all.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's my parlay of the week. That being said, a couple games we want to predict. Cincinnati at Tennessee. Cincinnati open up as 2.5-point favorites. Over under is set at 41. Joe, give us your prediction.
Man, those are good numbers. Just about a field goal there with a 41 because neither team has been putting up a lot of points. The Bengals have beat them 3 times in a row, stemming back from Burrow's rookie year, and then in the playoffs in 2021, and then last year went to Tennessee and T. Higgins dunked all over everyone on the Titans defense. I expect that to happen again, where they do feed Higgins a lot and hopefully get it going. But that D-line has beat up on Burrow in the past, and that could be the difference. I wouldn't touch this game if it was up to me, but the Bengals fan in me wants to say it is probably a 3-point or less victory for the Bengals.
All right, we like it. Buffalo hosting the Miami Dolphins. Dolphins coming off their big 70-point barrage on Denver. Buffalo also coming off their 37-3 win over the Washington Commanders. Buffalo coming into this game as 3-point favorites. Over under is set at 53.5.
So that line shifted since Sunday when it first opened up. It
Yep.
was at Buffalo -2.5. It's now at Buffalo -3. So a lot of the early money is going to Buffalo. That being said, I'm taking Miami +3 here. I hate to say it as a Bills fan, but this team is just, they look so hard to stop. And I was looking at some of their game tape, and then I was also going back and kind of looking at their stats. ESPN Stats has all of these cool graphs that I like looking at and referring to. Miami, I'll start with this. So with pre-snap motion, everyone knows that Miami's a big pre-snap motion team. The league average is 20%. It's about 20% of the game on offense you're using pre-snap motion. Right now, Miami's at 50% pre-snap motion.
Yeah, they're motion. They motion everybody.
And I bring this up because if you look at the Raiders game, the Raiders and Bills back last week, that first drive where the Raiders completely gashed Buffalo's defense, they used pre-snap motion on every single play and got chunk yardage. Every time that there was pre-snap motion, it was easy for a first down. Going back, and that is what makes me nervous. I think that Mike McDaniel is a creative genius when it comes to offensive plays, and he is going to expose that weakness in an older Bills defense. This defense is getting onto the wrong side of 30 on average for most of these starters. They've been in the system for a while. And that's exactly it. You have, on Miami's side, the top 6 fastest ball carriers in the NFL. The individual plays, they're all to the Miami Dolphins. Specifically, Tyreek Hill, Raheem Mostert, and Devon Achane. There you go.
Nice.
And we're going to see a heavy dosage of that. A lot of pre-snap motion, a lot of speed, and I just don't know if Buffalo's defense is going to be able to physically keep up with them. So that being said, there's going to be a lot of points, and it's going to be, to me, I think it's whoever has the ball last wins this. I'm probably not even going to bet this game, but if I have to take it, I'm taking Miami with the points.
Yeah.
Just take the over.
Yeah, that's actually exactly what I have.
As well.
Miami at Buffalo, 53.5.
It's
That's
just
the only line I'm touching this game.
53.5?
53.5.
Yeah, over. Give me the over.
Now, non-betting aside, who do you think wins this game?
Like I said, it's going to come down to the last man with the ball.
Last man with the ball.
And I say that specifically because Josh Allen could throw an interception in the end zone.
Yeah.
Allen has
man with the
been
ball.
great against Miami throughout his career.
He has. He has the Dolphins' number. And I've said this on the show before, specifically with franchise quarterbacks having certain teams' numbers or certain teams having franchise quarterback numbers. Josh Allen just tends to have Miami's number.
Yep.
Jets have Josh Allen's number. And then it's the same thing with the Bengals with Joe Burrow and the
Browns. Yeah.
For whatever reason, can never go over that hump. Patrick Mahomes even struggles with the Chargers from time to time, to a lesser extent. But, yeah, this is a game where Josh Allen's going to put up numbers because I don't know if it's a mental thing or what. It's just one of those things where he's going to have a good game. It's just, can we dial back the interceptions enough to the point to where we can score a touchdown as the last play of the game as opposed to an interception?
Yep. For me, go Bills. Go Bills.
Easy.
It's not as easy as what I'm trying to make it seem like, but I've really liked what I've seen from Buffalo these last 2 weeks. I think
they cleaned it up for sure.
I think, and I know we beat Washington and then we beat Las Vegas, but with Miami, I mean, they played a Denver team who was just, I don't think is really that good, to be honest. So it's really going to come down to, as you said, the last person who gets the ball. But I think Josh figures it out here, and I think the Bills win by, I don't even know, man.
My prediction,
field goal.
That's exactly
field goal, maybe like touchdown.
31 Bills, 28 Miami.
It's definitely not going to be a double-digit win unless somebody gets hurt.
Right.
That's if of significance. But give me the Bills right now. That being said, let's move on to the.
But Joe's prediction.
Well, I just said give me the over. Well, who's going to win the game?
Yeah, who's going to win the game?
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I do think the Bills have always played the Dolphins well, especially Allen. They're not going to be sitting in the sun this time, and
bacon. It's going to
right,
be what's
Denver,
the weather
same
supposed
thing.
to be like this weekend? Like 70 and sunny, right?
It's going to be nice.
Perfect weather. Football weather.
Football
is what
weather.
It's gonna be.
And it's always, either the Bills go down there and it's scorching, or the Dolphins come here and it's, snowing. It's like 2 degrees. So now
makers kind of balance that out.
we got it feels like we have a balanced Bills versus Dolphins slate this season. So Bills and Dolphins get to play at a nice time of the year in Buffalo.
Everyone's healthy.
And then in Miami, I mean, when is it not nice there? Probably whenever there's not a hurricane.
I mean,
ravaging.
right now it's not nice. It was like 108 on the field, they said.
Well, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it depends
Unless
if you
you
like the
like
heat or
that.
not.
Right.
Some people like the heat.
If you're crazy, I mean, some people are.
Like just people that live in Las Vegas and like
There are people that live in Las Vegas.
they're like, this ain't bad.
Right.
Ah,
It's dry heat.
Yeah,
it's worse.
I'll take the
as
word
you're
for
like
it.
melting on your skin. And yeah,
I've had my Crocs melted there before.
that's an interesting one.
Yeah, I was at the pool, all day, drinking some margaritas, and I had my Crocs out in the sun, nothing covering them, and I was out in the pool for about 4 hours. And I mean, I was under protection for. I don't know why I didn't put my Crocs
Goopy
under.
Crocs.
So they weren't melted. I'm saying
Deformed?
they were deformed. They shrunk three
I
couple
have seen
sizes.
that, yeah.
It's like when you
Yeah.
put like Tupperware in the microwave for too long,
yeah.
and it's like, or not Tupperware, but like a plastic plate that's supposed to be like Tupperware, and it just
Right, microwave safe. No, you weren't.
Yeah. So they went from like a size 12 to about a size 9.5.
You had the flex on us with the size 12, or
I mean, I do, you know.
That being said, with
Let me
shoes,
tuck my feet away from the camera here.
I didn't have this on the script, but since we brought up shoes, those dunks, whatever that you had.
Yeah,
Do
my
we have
customs you're talking about?
Yeah, huh?
Yeah, I painted those 2
Did you
years
paint
ago.
those yourself?
I did, yeah.
That is
So I
sick.
like to consider myself an artist. I do a lot of fun projects. I got 3D printers, and I like to build stuff and make stuff. And Halloween time is a good time. You guys started thinking about that yet?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you're
yeah.
saying it like like you're ready
Love
for
Halloween.
huh?
Molly's been sending me a bunch of costume ideas, and I'm trying to figure out which one to do. Maybe we'll put in a poll later in the coming weeks
Let the
about
people decide.
Exactly.
Who was I last year? Last year, I mean, I always have like 2 or 3 costumes ready to go. My most notable one though was Little Nicky from Little Nicky.
Nice.
Yeah, that was pretty good because I could do the voice, and I had my dad. So my dad's a bigger guy. To anybody who doesn't know, so he wears like 3Xs.
Yeah.
So like I had his like 3X like navy puffer jacket on. I ordered these like bright like highlighter gloves because he wears them in the movie. I had a flask. What else? I had red sweatpants on.
Nailed it.
Yeah, and I had a wig on, like an emo wig on. And so I was walking around Brickyard, like just kind of like going up to people with like
Little Nicky.
my flask, and yeah, it was pretty funny.
So I want to bring it back to these shoes because these deserve some attention. All right, Joey's already got it up on the
Oh
screen.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you painted these.
I did. Yeah. Yeah. I know how to do that.
Do you do customs?
Well, I mean, I don't have time. I have time to do my own things, and people are like, hey, can you like? Because I've got a lot of followers.
So
and
you
they're-
wore these on the suite, right?
Oh yeah, I wore that one up in the First Star Suite, and I showed them off a little bit. But I get people on Twitter all the time like, "Oh, dude, I'll pay you right now for them." I'm like, "Yeah, I just don't have time."
Yes.
I like now. There's the tiger cross on the one
On
side.
the inside, yep.
And is it on both insides?
Both
And then-
insides, and on both outsides have the tiger head, the
sick.
Bengal logo.
That is awesome. Yeah, I just wanted to shout that out. That wasn't in the game script,
Thanks, I
but I
appreciate
screenshotted that, and I was like, if I get the opportunity to bring these up, I wanted to say, hey, I appreciate these customs.
My brother does Bill's customs a lot, actually. If you ever see him on Twitter,
I might have to reach out to him.
Yeah.
I gotta get some.
he's made more custom Bengals shoes for people that follow me
Oh,
than
that's
I
great.
have. I haven't done any. And I had guys at the tailgate saying, "Hey, your brother did these for me." I'm like, "Oh, nice."
That's sick. Yeah. Speaking of merch, plug your merch. You got on your Bengals on the
Yeah,
Brain
this is
hat?
Bengals on the Brain. That's what the logo looks like if you guys aren't aware. And there's a Bengals on the Brain website. It's on my Twitter page at bengalsonthebrain.com, as it sounds.
Shout out.
Yeah.
Shout out. Let's talk a little bit of fantasy football real quick. Start, sit, sleepers, and just go over some waiver additions that you guys should have put in before this morning. We came out with a TikTok, giving our waiver additions. So for the couple of waiver additions that we had C.J. Stroud, we had Devon Achan.
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 Write this on the board somewhere.
Achan. Devon Achan. We also had Josh Downs, Tank Dell if he's still available. So if you got any of those guys,
I think we
be
had
all
Tank
set.
Dell. I think
Last
Casey
week?
had mentioned Tank Dell last week.
Yeah.
As he was a great guest. He had all of these he's a fantasy guy. Like he was we brought him on for his fantasy prowess, and yeah, he had called Tank Dell already. So
Well, if you need a stash, I would say Marvin Mims also.
Marvin.
Yeah.
I have him in my bench right now.
Yep.
I mean, he was the only bright spot on that Broncos offense last week. I have been. Funny enough that you say that. I've been kind of clamoring the bell every week
Ringing
for my
it.
guy Marvin Mims.
Yeah, so he right now, yards per route run is far across anyone in the league, leading that. Plus, so we do a draft spreadsheet every year that brings in my evaluations from a scouting perspective and then has the data weigh it. And it had Marvin Mims as the third best receiver prospect in this class.
Oh, wow. Who did it?
Saying he's going to be a stud. But we have to see where he goes first. And then it was Denver, and I'm like, he's kind of buried. Then Tim Patrick gets hurt, and then opportunities are opening up. Wouldn't be surprised second half of the year if Marvin Mims is just absolutely a stud.
We are both in a big fantasy league that it's been going on for years. It's a keeper league too. I made a reach and I drafted Marvin Mims in the 9th round, and I'm still fine with him in the 8th round as my keeper if everything goes to plan. I've been super high on Marvin Mims, but this week he is totally a start if you already have him. If he's not rostered he's only rostered in 22% of leagues, believe it or not, right now, which is, I think, an absurd number. And I haven't seen him a lot on a lot of waiver wire videos or ads.
So get him before you're sweating it on a Tuesday.
Get him before he's the next Tank Dell, like as of last week.
Exactly.
Good luck getting Tank Dell. And another guy along that same stone is Josh Downs. We talked about it already in our waiver pickup, but he had 8 grabs with Gardner Minshew throwing the ball to him. And you know what? Between Gardner Minshew and Anthony Richardson, I don't see. I think they're both really good, and they're both going to throw the ball. Anthony Richardson kind of takes away some red zone snaps for fantasy players, but he's still slinging it. I like Josh Downs a lot as even a start this week as well.
He's the only guy in that offense that has any speed also.
Yep.
So they're going to create for him. They're going to design for him. He's also a guy that scored extremely high in our pre-draft process. He also, if can get consistently quarterback play, he might be a guy that really shoots up in the second half of the year.
I agree.
If you haven't grabbed him yet, Tyjae Spears. He's
Spears.
another huge one. He's splitting snaps now with Derrick Henry. And he looks good doing it too. So Derrick Henry, if he gets hurt at any point in time, you're gonna have to just hope that Tyjae Spears is already on your bench.
That's another guy that offers something different for that offense, where Spears is a good pass receiver and can run and can make guys miss, and it's just he doesn't have to be the battering ram that Derrick Henry is.
Yeah. Trying to think. Any starts, sit sleepers?
This week,
Yeah,
Adam
this week.
Thielen.
Yes.
Give me Adam Thielen if he's not already. One, he might still be sitting there on waivers. I doubt it, but it's worth taking a look. Or even if you're trading like a guy that you're not very happy with right now, you can probably buy Adam Thielen. He looks to be a favorite target between both Andy Dalton, who threw 58 passes last week. Was it 58? Something
It was up
like
there.
that.
And he's always loved this slot guy too.
Bingo. And when Bryce Young comes back, you're not going to throw the ball as much with Bryce Young right away, but Adam Thielen still got it at age 32.
If Andy Dalton is playing, for sure, rev me up some Adam Thielen. I liked what I saw last week from the two. A start for me that I want to point out, I'm going to go quarterback here. Give me Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy, I thought he looked great last week. He put up his highest passing total of the season. He just picked up. It was the Giants. The Giants have not been that good.
He had something like 20 fantasy points, depending on your format.
Yeah, I want to say he was
21 points, which is solid for quarterback.
Yeah, and say if you don't trust Joe Burrow this week, if you have Brock Purdy on your bench, I think you slot Purdy in. And they're playing Arizona. I think Arizona's defense, they're better than what they're supposed to be, but I will say this, I just think 49ers are going to still have their way with them.
One other quarterback that I want to mention that you should probably start this week if you have Joe Burrow, or if you're still looking for a quarterback from Aaron Rodgers, is C.J. Stroud.
Oh, yeah,
versus
for sure.
Jacksonville. I think he's an easy start. He has been lighting it up, and he seemed to find his rhythm so far.
Yeah.
I like C.J. Stroud a lot this week.
And from a player evaluation perspective, he's actually playing quarterback at a very high level so far. It's very encouraging for what the upside will look like. You usually get this with rookies where they're up and down, and he's looking pretty consistently like he's on a trajectory.
If you were the Bengals looking back at it, obviously hindsight is 20/20. But I know there was a lot of debate between is C.J. Stroud going to go first, is Bryce Young going to go first. Where do you see kind of the prognosis for Bryce Young moving forward?
He should be fine. He was compared to Andy Dalton or Joe Burrow in a lot of ways. Sorry, Joe. I didn't mean to confuse you with Andy Dalton. I'll never do it again. I swear to God. I'm sorry. But he was compared to him in a lot of ways because of anticipation, accuracy, can go off script and make plays, but very cerebral quarterback. And I think he will be that. They're a very slow offense, very slow functioning offense in Carolina. I think they'll get it together in time. I was a big a proponent of Anthony Richardson and his upside. Like, I think take the upside swings, very similar to the Joe Burrow, Tua, Justin Herbert draft. Like, a lot of teams redrafting would probably say, give me Herbert. But then Jalen Hurts, high upside guy. Jordan Love in that class. That's a great class now. We're looking back right now.
That's,
but,
oh my goodness.
Yeah, take the high upside guys as often as you can.
Yeah. Another start I have, I mean, he's probably going to be starting in most lineups. This might be an obvious choice, but DeAndre Swift. He's coming off 2 back-to-back huge primetime games. Behind that offensive line in Philadelphia, it's just no-brainer, man. He's really starting to, find his footing in Philadelphia. And even, like, in the NFL, I mean, I feel like because with Detroit, I felt like there was too many inconsistencies with injuries. He was splitting carries, a decent amount.
And he's at probably the best offensive line in the league.
Yes. Yeah. And behind that offensive line, anything could happen. So yeah, give me DeAndre Swift. Also going up against Washington. I mean, Buffalo didn't have the biggest rushing game last week, but I mean, James Cook still had decent numbers.
Yeah.
It was more of like the Josh Allen was just yakking it up to Big Yak,
Big
Gabe
yakking
Davis,
it up.
Gabe Davis, and the fellas. And so, yeah, give me DeAndre Swift. And another start I want to throw out there real quick, wide receiver wise. Give me George Pickens at Houston. Didn't have the biggest game last week versus Vegas. Probably should have. But playing a Houston defense who's just not the greatest. I like Houston's offense way more than I like their defense. George Pickens, I think this is going to be I'm not going to say a bounce-back game for Kenny Pickett, but I'm going to say he's going to look way better.
If you have a guy like DeAndre Hopkins or an older receiver or someone, or even like a Kyle Pitts, I'm getting rid of, if you can do it, I'm getting rid of those names and grabbing George Pickens.
Yep.
I'm taking a look at the George Pickens owner and being like, hey, let me give you this guy. And at the end of the day, George Pickens is going to outscore any of those name-based players. The players that are averaging way lower than expected, but they have that value based off their name. I'm moving DeAndre Hopkins. I'm moving Kyle Pitts. I'm moving. I'd even consider.
What are you gonna get for those guys? We're gonna have to probably give them 2 or 3 guys.
Exactly. You'd have to kind of package it in a deal and hope that the Pickens guys sell it.
Hopefully he's down bad.
Some sits. One sit I have in mind. You know what? We talked about it earlier, and this might be a very bold take. I don't know if it's very bold or not. Garrett Wilson versus Kansas City.
Yeah, it's tough because you drafted him in a spot where he's like almost in must-start category, but
you can't must start him anymore.
Yeah.
It's just in Kansas City's a great defense. It's tough. And if you have another guy like you have like a Tutu Atwell on your bench, or you have like a Romeo Dobbs, I might look their way if we're gonna be completely honest.
You might get so much garbage time though in that game.
That's the
also
thing.
true.
That's the thing. I mean,
but is Zach Wilson going to be able to throw it?
Maybe it's so garbage that the coverage is like 40 yards off, and they're just like, "I do whatever you want."
Yeah, just go crazy. Yeah. Do you have any sits?
Tyler Algier. He had that hot start, and we were high on him, and now I am benching him until further notice. This is going to be the Bijan show sooner rather than later. Tyler Algier is still a great back, but I think that Bijan takes over here and kind of takes all the valuable touches away from Algier. Kadarius Toney, if you're still starting him, what are you doing? Put him on your bench, and even better, drop him. Same way he knows how to drop. So I am moving on from Kadarius Toney. And Drake London I would also consider sitting if you can afford it. He's another player where you drafted him pretty highly, and you might not have an option, but if you have a waiver wire guy, like I'm taking some of those ads that we just talked about, like Josh Downs, Marvin Mims. Yeah. I'm playing Marvin Mims over Drake London. Yeah. Easy.
I'm sitting DeAndre Hopkins. I'm sitting.
Isn't that so weird to say? Like I'm sitting DeAndre Hopkins, and it's honestly not even his talent that is like
Ryan Tannehill.
Right.
Yeah. He
exactly.
Did this. You did this, DeAndre Hopkins. Now I have to sit you.
I'm also sitting wide receivers not named Keenan Allen as well. That might be a little bit of a bold take. I mean,
yeah,
I know.
I'm claiming or trading and holding with Quentin Johnson.
Yeah, I'm holding on to Quentin Johnson. It's just right now, until Keenan Allen cools down, I'm not starting another Charger receiver.
Yeah, that connection
What about
is
Antonio
real.
Gates?
You know what? Donald Parham might give him a run for his money.
Yeah, he might.
He had that 2-touchdown game not too long ago, right?
Not too bad.
Yeah. So, any other sits that you have?
Those were the main ones that I had. Quarterback wise, like you said, Joe Burrow. If you can afford it, again, take a look at the waiver wire. CJ Stroud, or even if a guy like Brock Purdy is still there, like pick him up, stash him, and then wait and see. I think the Joe Burrow, that's a 1:00 game, so you should be able to at 11:30 on Sunday really know what to decide there.
Yeah, this might be a little bit of a crazy start, but give me Jake Ferguson, the Dallas Cowboys tight end versus New England. I know it's
deep.
I know it's New England, but listen, tight end is a crapshoot. We've talked about this so many times on this show. But the thing is through the first 3 games, Dak is looking his way almost as much as he's looking to CeeDee Lamb and target-wise. So it's kind of like Ferguson's like the number 2 target, not named like Tony Pollard or any of the running backs. So like it's like CeeDee Lamb, Jake Ferguson right now.
That's why they're struggling then.
Yeah. Bingo.
So
That's how. And you know what? We didn't even talk about it because of all of the headlines, but Dallas
falling apart
Dallas
to
lost
Arizona.
to
Don't sleep on Josh Dobbs, man. Don't sleep on him. He's better than you think.
He's aerodynamic.
He's aerodynamic.
Sorry.
Last thing before we wrap up, I got a quarterback tier list.
Rip 'em off.
list.
I want to hear him. I unveiled mine last week, and I got
Do
a
you
lot of feedback.
did you have the pic? I sent you the picture. I don't know if you have it
Do I have it? Let's see. If
on
I
you
have it.
to post. I mean, I could rip it off real quick through. I have it right in front of me.
I have it.
You have it? Okay.
Yeah. Let me get it up for Joey real quick.
Yeah, I want to tear it apart.
You want to tear it apart? It's more funny than it
okay.
is serious, but there's a little bit of seriousness.
All right.
So gonna start off top MVP caliber right now. Patrick Mahomes, Tua Tagovailoa, undisputed right now. Top 5 guys right now. Give me Josh, Herbert, Hurts.
Okay.
All 3 playing pretty well. I mean, Chargers could have a better record. You know, with Austin Eckler out, I could tell Herbert is starting to throw the ball a little bit more. Starting to trust himself in a receiver. So I like how Herbert right now, I think, is top 3 or 5 in completion percentage. Had a really good game
Justin
last week.
Herbert leads the league in completion percentage.
He does.
Actually, right
He
now,
does.
like 72%.
Yeah, Jalen Hurts. I mean, his dual threat ability. You know, the tush push, whatever you want to call it. I mean,
Most unstoppable.
unstoppable play. 5 to 10 range
I
guys.
like how the 5 to 10 range tier has 3 guys in it.
3
Yeah,
guys.
so now we're at 8.
Yeah. So
That's kind of how the 5 to 10 works.
Yeah.
So
That's
either
the thing.
top 5 or 10.
that's what I'm saying. It's like, yeah. So I got Dak, Goff, Kirko 30.
Kirko Chains.
Kirk has been playing.
You big fan of vanilla ice cream?
Here's the thing. He's a. I don't even know how to describe Kirk Cousins.
Last
He gets
week
a
in my tier list,
Okay.
he was under the tier of doesn't need to be special. And
That's
it was
true.
just
Yeah.
you have
Accurate.
Justin Jefferson, you have Jordan Addison, you have TJ Hockenson.
I think there's more
Just
problems.
get them the ball.
Stop trying to be special. Like that's how they lost the game. They're trying to do too much.
I think
Kirk.
there's more problems on this
what the
Vikings
coaches yell.
defense or whole team than Kirk Cousins.
That's a fantasy QB1 you're talking about right there.
It
too.
is. His stats, back him up. Jared Goff as well. I mean, Jared Goff, he's been solid. He's been a good game manager.
I'd almost have him in your other tier that you'll get to eventually.
Oh, good, but are struggling.
No.
Kirk Cousin
Oh,
variants.
Kirk Cousins
How is
variants.
it Kirk Cousin in the Kirk Cousin variants?
I'll explain that in a minute.
Okay.
Good, but are struggling. I have Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow, I think, without his calf injury, would be obviously top 5 guys range. Lamar
Seems
Jackson
stiff right now.
What's up?
Has he been playing stiff to you? Is that
Oh
what
yeah,
he looks
he
like?
can't.
I-
He can't move.
That's what I'm. That's how. That's
They don't want him
the
to
word
move
that
either.
I get.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lamar Jackson. It's up and down for me. It's like 1 week he's on target with his guys.
His
Zay
issue was
Flowers.
finishing games. I mean,
Yeah.
he looked great through 3 quarters last week, but
Yeah.
that 4th quarter
They couldn't do anything.
Yeah,
Yeah. Geno Smith as well. I mean, it's more of like Carolina gave him a little bit of a run for their money last week. I just want them to get Jackson Smith and Jiba going a little bit more. Like he hasn't had any love so far.
Seattle leads the league in 2 tight end sets right now.
Yeah.
So, like, if you're just expecting Njigba to get off, it's probably going to be a while. And that's probably why they're not putting up enough points.
Yeah, and their tight ends are, Noah Fant and I don't know if I can name you the second tight end.
Colby Parkinson.
Colby Parkinson. I don't know. It's just
Clearly drafted higher than Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Yeah.
Get Colby out there.
And then good but struggling, Trevor Lawrence. I mean, it's more of like it's not his fault so much, but his receivers lead the league in drops.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, his receivers aren't helping him out. So, again, I didn't like how they looked against Houston. They struggled against Kansas City. Maybe it's Kansas City's, defense that made them look like that. But again, they lost to Houston last week 37-17. If you're only putting up 17 points against Houston, that's a problem. Young ballers. Anthony Richardson, I know he didn't play last week.
I like this tier.
But I liked what I saw before his concussion. Jordan Love had an 18-point comeback last week after being down 17-0 against a tough Saints defense. Give me Jordan Love as a young baller. Even though this is his 4th year, he's still considered a younger quarterback. So
This is first year starting. Yeah,
First year
I'll give you
starting.
that.
Brock Purdy, again, another guy who San Francisco's been amazing, and he's such a great game manager. I know he has a great supporting cast around him, but again, he hasn't lost a game as a starter. CJ Stroud, young baller. First week was a little shaky, but the last 2 weeks he's looked amazing. He is,
You said it yourself. I mean,
he's playing well.
He's doing real well.
He's doing real well. They need to get the running game a little bit going with Pierce and Singletary, and I think once that happens, their offensive line gets healthier because they're only playing with like one of their. Last week they only had one healthy regular offensive line starter. Yeah. I mean, the offensive line injuries have been kind of rough. Kirk Cousins variants. I talked about this a little bit last week.
You have more Kirk Cousins variants than anything else in here.
Yes.
And Mac Jones isn't in there?
Mac Jones is because I'm unsure of Mac
Kirk
Jones.
Cousins' younger brother variant.
So Kirk Cousins variants. It's basically like you have Kirk Cousins
Game managers,
and they're just I don't even know what to describe
Alternate
these guys.
universe Kirk Cousins.
They're just Kirk Cousins.
Kirk Stafford, Kirk Wilson.
the Kirk multiverse.
Who's this next guy?
Tannehill.
Oh, I'm
That's
sorry,
Tannehill.
Tannehill. I've never seen you before in my life.
Got Baker Mayfield. Yeah,
Look at that
Ryan
neck.
Tannehill's rocking.
Does anyone see this
That's
picture?
a crazy neck.
That is a
Yeah.
neck. He's trying to get into the next tier with
Actually,
that
that's
neck.
like the main thing you can see on the
That's
screen.
all I see is the neck. That's why I was wondering what was going on.
So far up to this season, I think these guys have the bad qualities of Kirk Cousins.
The bad
Bad
qualities
Kirk
was-
Cousins.
Bad Kirk Cousins. I mean, I could probably name it
You
that.
could do all tiers of Kirk Cousins probably.
You could.
Kirk Cousins on at 1:00 in a dome is the top
Prime
one.
time. I'm gonna put Baker Mayfield in prime
Might do
time
that
Kirk
for mine.
Cousins.
Time Kirk Cousins, Baker Mayfield, right?
Derek Carr's up there as well. Derek Carr also, I believe, is not playing this week. He has a
He's
sprained
week to week with a shoulder
AC
injury.
joint.
AC, that's right, AC
Yeah.
joint.
Unsure of. These are more of like young ballers, but they're not.
This
ballers.
is like young, not quite ballers.
young, not quite ballers. Bryce Young didn't play last week, but the first 2 games, I feel like they have limiters on
You
them.
have Caleb Williams in there?
No, that's Bryce Young.
Oh,
Yeah, that's Bryce.
wait, no, in the middle.
Oh, in the middle.
That's Sam Howell.
That's Sam Howell.
Sam Howell. Sorry, Sam Howell. I've never seen your face before.
Desmond Ritter. Again, they've been run heavy up to this point. And then when he's thrown the ball, just not doesn't.
Last week he was in my Desmond Ritter was in my tier of painfully boring to watch.
Oh,
He is boring. He is a boring quarterback.
And
to
then
watch.
I got slack for that. Like people gave me hate for that in the comments, and I said, yeah, my favorite highlight of Desmond Ritter was when he handed the ball off to Bijan Robinson.
Right.
That's
right.
That's all that he's good for in this Atlanta offense
The
right now.
passing game is just not it right now.
Young Kirk Cousins right there.
Young Kirk Cousins, Sam Howell, just not impressed, especially after what I saw against Buffalo. Just got
This tier could also be Kirk Cousins in the making.
Kirk Cousins in the making. That too.
Developmental Cousins.
Yes, developmental cousins.
Second Cousins.
Second Cousins.
Oh!
That's good. That's good.
That's
That's
getting
good.
clipped.
Kenny Pickett, not overly impressed with him. There's some qualities, but
I think the bar was set too high for him this year.
they hyped Steelers fans themselves hyped Pickett and the team up a lot. And, they're not a bad team. They're going to find a way to become 500 again.
Mike Tomlin's going to will them with,
Yeah.
Somehow,
Instagram
some way,
quotes.
they'll still end with 9-8.
Yeah, I'm just not overly impressed with Pickett. And then Mac Jones was like teeter-tottering with like young ballers, Kirk Cousins variants. He was just all over the place.
He's like a top 8 in passing yards right now.
He's top 8 in passing yards, but it's hard.
Can I vote to put him into Kirk Cousins variant?
We could put him in Kirk Cousins variants. Let's just put him young Kirk Cousins.
There's more Kirk Cousins variants than anything else in the league then.
Yes.
That's a true statement.
That's why these teams are tanking for Caleb Williams, though.
Yeah.
Right. Why are you going to sit here and draft the next Kirk Cousins? It becomes the Andy Dalton line. Do you remember the Andy Dalton line?
I'm very familiar with it.
You know the Andy Dalton line.
I called it quarterback purgatory.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Where you're right down the middle,
Yes.
where he's
You're
not going to win you
too
games, he's
good.
not going to lose you games.
Yeah, you're too good that you're not going to draft top 10, so you can't find an immediate upgrade, but you're too bad to beat any of the playoff teams.
Bingo.
Yeah.
The Andy Dalton line.
The Andy Dalton line.
Part of me with Mac Jones is they're not surrounding him with proper targets, proper, players.
Fair. All fair.
Like last week they're throwing the ball like Pharaoh Brown. I mean, it's just he's in a weird spot. He's been better from what we've seen in the past of Mac Jones, but again, he teeter-totters from like these three.
He's a guy that would
tiers.
really benefit from a wide receiver one,
Yes.
like an alpha wide receiver.
He would also benefit for an offense that helps. He's the lowest in the league right now in play action passes. And play action across the league is higher EPA, higher completion percentage, higher yards per attempt, and they're the lowest in the league. They're not even trying there.
Yeah.
And then we got Pupu Kaka. Just bad.
This is Puka Nakua's cousin. We're back on more cousins.
Jimmy Garoppolo.
Kaka.
Yeah. Jimmy Garoppolo, I don't think has been good the first 3 weeks. I mean, he had
He's as advertised.
Yeah.
That's exactly what.
This should have had his own tier. Jimmy G.
Garoppolo.
Jimmy G.
He's just
Most handsome quarterback, but kind of sucks.
He was exactly what we expected him to be. Like
Except he's healthy.
yeah,
That's
it.
good job.
Good job, man. You threw 23 targets to Devontae Adams and lost. I mean, I don't know, man. He's just I don't know. The Raiders are a mess right now. Next guy, Justin Fields, another guy who's surrounding cast is a mess. He's a mess. It's just he needs to figure some stuff out. I think he needs to run the ball a little bit more too.
This is a sad group now that I'm looking at it.
Yeah.
You guys are looking at this, right?
I have Mr. Daniel Jones. I am not a big Daniel Jones guy. I remember Nico asked me during the season, Dak Prescott or Daniel Jones in the offseason, and I said Dak Prescott.
100%.
100%.
I took Daniel Jones at the time.
We're talking fantasy?
No,
We're talking
Oh, good Lord.
everything.
Yeah. I was high on Daniel Jones going into the season, but
Yeah.
If they don't high on something.
If they they didn't surround him with they have Darren Waller, but I went on a rant on a TikTok reaction after the Giants 49ers game, and Darren Waller is just not it.
yeah,
I don't know. I don't like what I've
getting
seen
old.
from him so far. He's getting old. He's just maybe he's good with Derek Carr because Derek Carr throws the ball so much, but I just don't like what I've seen. The receivers, I mean, Isaiah Hodgins, Jalen Hyatt's been a little promising, but there's just nothing to it with me with Daniel Jones. Zach Wilson, Pupu Kaka. Deshaun Watson. Here's the thing with Deshaun Watson. I had a separate tier for him for a very horrible human being.
I was going to.
I mean.
That's why I don't like seeing Andy Dalton below him, at the very least.
So that's not like a knock at Andy Dalton. Really,
The colors don't make sense here, so
I just
wanted to add that.
it
Right.
expands out.
Did anyone take art class? How do we start at red, orange, yellow, blue? We're back at neon yellow again, and then unsure matches how I feel about that color.
And then the red. So the red I see because
He's red, fine, but that's
He's
MVP
red.
color. You just copied and pasted it.
I was running out of colors.
Tiermaker was limiting us here.
I was running out of colors. The red rifle's red. That's all I got to say. The red rifle.
Hey, he threw so many times that
He had the bad and the
it.
good. He had the bad and the good. That's all I got.
He had a very Andy Dalton performance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why I don't know where to slot him on this list, so I just put him at the last.
Yeah, fine.
Yeah, that's my tier list. A lot of more jokes and seriousness, but I mean, hopefully we get some good interaction with our fans on TikTok and whatnot. But that's the quarterback tier list. And that's all we really have with this show. Do you guys have
We
anything else?
hit 90 minutes. That's a long one for us. So
Long one. We've
Sorry,
had longer.
I
Thanks
tried to
for,
derail it a few times.
no, you're
Oh, yeah.
good. You're good. Thanks for staying the whole time.
No, no
Sorry
problem.
we held you.
No, it was interesting.
Yeah.
I kept thinking of jokes, so I was like, I'll just stay.
It's
Yeah.
perfect.
Do you have anything else to add, Joe, before we?
I do not. Thanks for having me on, guys. This was awesome. I didn't know what to expect,
Yeah.
and then I did not expect this, and then it was really good. So
Good.
job.
you.
Good. Appreciate it.
Thank you. We appreciate it. So yeah, everybody, please follow us on TikTok so we can go live on that TikTok instead of me going live on my personal, because it's just not good. So please just follow us on TikTok so we can get some followers.
Show some love to our X too. Or we got to get
Yeah.
back on the X train.
X Twitter.
It's
Twitter
been a
X.
while. And
Especially they're paying now.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We can get a couple bucks here and there if we up
Some
our
moolah.
interactions
Get
a little
some
bit.
better
so-
jerseys. And
Yeah,
Get some updated than Antonio
updated jerseys.
I actually now you got to keep them because now they're
vintage.
they're representative of the show.
Yeah.
Right.
Great players, but I'm kind of confused.
It is confusing. We're just trying to be different. Around here. Please, everybody, watch Bengals on the Brain. Shout out Joe for coming on. Shout out Nico. Shout out Joe. Shout out Emerge and BICB or Emerge and Maranto. Shout out Matt Johnson and BICBP Radio Network. I like the studio. I mean, I like the setup. This is
Good switch.
This is a good switch going forward. We're gonna be down here. So everybody, please show some love. We appreciate it. See you guys next week for episode 64. Thank you guys for watching.
All right.
I don't know if my tweet ever went through before we started.